Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. I'm your host, Syed Razvi, here with my guest, Dr. Muhammad Aslam Parvez, who's done his master's in botany and PhD in plant physiology. He's the Vice Chancellor of Maulana Azad National Urdu University, and he's known for his work in popular science and environmental issues. And he has also published a magazine in Urdu called Urdu Science Monthly. He's currently on his quest to connect people to the Quran, and the interest sprung in him after he realized that the translations to the Quran don't do justice to the message of the Quran. So without further ado, let's get to our first question. Doctor, please describe your initiative in regards to your field of study and what's your mission?
So I was a student of science from the very beginning because of my choice. I like sciences and particularly plant sciences. And another aim which I had in my mind early in my career that I wanted to be a teacher. And I wanted to be a teacher because I wanted to disseminate knowledge. So that's how I started. But since I came from Urdu background and Urdu medium schools, I realized that we do not have much scientific literature in Urdu. So the first thing which I did after completing my research, I started writing popular science articles in Urdu language, dealing with environment, popular science, any topic, health, hygiene, environment, basic sciences. And those articles and write-ups were very well received by the masses as well as the students of Urdu medium schools. And then, in fact, many students requested me that why don't you bring out a magazine or something by which we can get the regular material for our reading, for our studies. So I decided and I established an organization called Anjuman Farogh-e-Science, that is Organization for Promotion of Science. And in this organization, we had patrons like Professor Abdul Salam, the Nobel laureate, Mr. Syed Hamid, who was at that time the Vice Chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University, and Hakim Abdul Hamid, the founder of Hamdard Waqf Laboratories, and many other eminent scientists who knew Urdu were with me. Then in February 1994, I started the magazine Urdu Science Monthly, which is being published regularly month after month, and it's a silver jubilee year. That is, this is the 25th year of its uninterrupted publishing. And over these last 25 years, we have addressed all the basic issues of health, environment, and popular science things. Then, as a student of science, when I started reading Quran with translations, I realized that many things which we discuss in sciences, particularly the scientific attitude, how to look at things, what is the significance of observation, analysis, and intellectual pursuits, what relation it has with the Quran. So that was another turning point in my life.
So, Doctor, how did you get interested in the Quran? And what message did the Quran give you besides the already existing culture that we have today?
So I studied Arabic in my school days. From a 6th standard to 8th standard, it's the 3 years I read Arabic. So basic knowledge I had. So once going through the translation, and you may ask that why I started reading the translation, because I had a questioning mind. And my first question to my parents was that why I should read a book which I don't understand. Because Arabic is not my language, you are asking me to read Quran. So basically it cannot be a reading if I don't understand it. So they arranged for a translation and I started reading Quran with translation. Once going through the translations, because of whatever preliminary knowledge of Arabic I had, I realized that at number of places, it seemed to me that justice is not done with the text. So then I started going to the original sources with my friends who are professors of Arabic. And that, I would say, started a new phase of my life. Because once I understood Quran, I realized that what I used to practice as a Muslim was a minuscule Islam, if I could say that. Because I think most of the Muslims across the world, their Islam is based on the rituals, that is 5 time periods and fasting for a month during the month of Ramadan. This is what they consider as the prayer or the ibadah. This is a very, I would say, a very minuscule submission to the divine order, because Quran asks us to do a number of things which encompasses our entire life, be it our business, our home life, or anything. Whereas this type of Islam, which is based on the rituals, keeps its focus only on, as I said, the practices, which I believe are basically meant to groom you for the larger purpose of the Quran for which it is revealed. Because the basic theme or the purpose of the Quran is to serve the humanity. If you ask me that to put it in one word, then it is a service to the humanity, and guidance is the best service. So guiding them, and first guiding yourself to a peaceful lifestyle, comfortable for everyone, is the basic message. The Quran makes us a good human being. So once I realized it, I discovered that literally every aspect of our life is affected because we do not follow Quran. What we follow, what we deem fit, and what we find happening around us, or due to peer pressures or the rituals of the families which differ from place to place. So that's why nobody follows the Quran. Whereas if I say I am a Muslim, it means I have submitted to divine order, so I must follow Quran. Situation in most of the Muslim families is that nobody reads Quran with understanding. So if I do not understand the Quran, how I will practice it? So now what I can say that my current mission is to connect people with Quran. I am using the word people, not Muslims, because Quran is a book which is meant for the entire humanity. It is not only for Muslims, it is for the entire humanity. So I try to connect people with Quran, requesting them just please read translation and understand what you are supposed to do. Because you see, literally we have moved away, or rather I would say we have divorced Quran. We have left Quran, we must revert it to back. And it has affected our entire lifestyles, particularly the system of education. And that to me is the main reason why Muslims are educationally most backward people. Well, I believe that I could made a dent, and I can see a change coming, because these efforts are almost, I would say, 23, 24 years old. And the most significant change is that, as I said, that Islam as taught by Quran and Islam as practiced in Muslim societies are different. The Islam as practiced in Muslim society does not address our basic issues of the environment, because it is in no way seems connected with your religion. Whereas the Islam taught by the Quran makes us responsible custodians of this planet. The concept of the custodianship is very elaborative in Quran. Human beings on this planet, they are the custodians. They are not the masters of nature or the conquerors of nature. They are the custodians of the nature. So whatever resources we have, we must take care of them. Now this aspect, I would say I was able to motivate and inculcate in our religious scholars. We have the Indian Jurisprudence Academy, what we call as the Islamic Fiqh Academy. Now this academy takes up the issues in their annual sessions, and I motivated them and convinced them to take up the issues of the environment. And I'm happy that a couple of years back they take up the water pollution issues, and in their last year's session, which was held in Ujjain, city of Madhya Pradesh, they took up the atmospheric pollution. And I prepared the concept note for the religious scholars, and based on that concept paper they prepared questions, and it was discussed by the whole lot of the religious people. And then I went there and explained to them what is atmospheric pollution, and we linked it that the word fasad, which is used in the Quran, the Quran asks the readers not to spread fasad. Now Arabic word fasad with the root words of fe, sin, dal has a larger scope. In most of the translation, it is translated as a simple quarrel, jagda, fasad. So we were able to convince our religious scholar that it includes all sorts of disbalance, inequality, disparities, including the environmental imbalance in the composition of the water as well as in the composition of the air. So that means when the Quran asks us not to spread pollution or facade on this earth, it means don't spread pollution as well. So that way I believe I was able to convince these people, and that session was very successful, and the resolutions which were passed in that session were very relevant to check the atmospheric pollution. So that way I believe that secondly, the people are now understanding, the religious scholars particularly, that the vertical split which we have introduced in our education system into religious education and worldly education is in fact not the right thing. And knowledge is one, it is indivisible, and we should seek knowledge because Quran asks us to seek knowledge.
So what were some of the challenges that you faced during this journey of yours? And what were some of your motivators, and who were the people that stood up in your way as a challenge?
You see, when I started, then I faced a lot of challenges. And people question my credibility, that whether I am capable or I am authorized to quote Quran or not. Because those were the days, I'm talking about, say, almost more than 25 years back. So at that time, it was expected that a person who has not graduated from a madrasa is not competent to speak on religious issues. So that space was totally at that time controlled by the so-called religious scholars. So, but I would say I just continued with my missions, my programs, patiently ignoring those people, not getting, irritated or anything. I remained nice and kind and polite with everybody, and just humbly telling them that, look, I am a student of Quran and a student of science. This is what I understand and I want to share it with you. So gradually people started realizing, and simultaneously the times also changed. Because during the last 2 decades, people have realized that there need to be some sort of rethinking on our education systems. It should be a wholesome one, where knowledge is not divided into tight compartments of religious scholarship and worldly scholarship. And then people become more accommodative. They started sharing the Quran with others, because I remember my childhood that there was a strong lobby which was of the opinion that the Quran should not be given to non-Muslims. So now, as we know that it is not only given to non-Muslims, it is freely available everywhere through the internet services. So a lot has changed because of this, I would say, the communication revolution. So now I do not see much challenge, rather people, particularly religious scholars, they really cooperate with me and they appreciate my efforts. And there are many projects which we people together are doing. That is people like me and religious scholars qualified from the madrasa systems. So thankfully, and I thank God for that, I am able to fuse the two groups which were separated, I would say, in a sort of tight compartments. So a sort of synergy is developing. We are developing a symbiotic relationship. And I am very optimistic that things are bound to change, provided we all return to Quran, understand it, and put it to practice. That's very important.
So what do you think are the reasons for there existing multiple ideologies in competition with the Quran?
As a student of Quran as well as a student of science, what I believe that fact is always one. The reality is one. It can be looked at from different angles, but it cannot be interpreted in a number of ways. To me, the reasons for different interpretations, or rather deviations from the basic Quran, is human desire to justify what one is doing. Because the problem with most of us is that we don't try to follow Quran. We try to accommodate whatever we are doing within the Quranic teachings. That is, we stretch the Quran to accommodate what we are doing, rather than correcting our ways and do things that what Quran asks us to. Now this is the area where somehow some religious scholars define things or interpret things with extra Quranic sources. Now extra Quranic sources, when I say, so naturally the most important extra Quranic source is what we call as the sayings of the Prophet or the hadiths. or the doings of the Prophet. My take on this point is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would never say anything against the Quran, which goes beyond the Quran or which directly is in conflict with the Quran. So my simple understanding is that if somebody quotes a saying of the Prophet, which asks me to do something which is not in the Quran, I will not take it, because I believe that it cannot be correct. Because the Holy Prophet will never go against the Quran, will not do anything which is not in the Quran. So that way I feel that interpretations, if they are different, then they are motivated. That's how I understand. As far as different versions are concerned, as I said earlier, that the reason is that perhaps that we are trying to stretch Quran to justify what we have been doing. So basically, if scientifically we look at Quranic teachings, scientifically, you see, when you say scientifically, what it means, that your vision should be clear. It should not be blurred, or in other words, I can say you should not have a backpack. If already you have some things in your mind and you want to get it justified through Quran, that becomes a problem. If you just approach the Quran as a simple person without any backpack and with clear vision, then you get the guidance, provided you are willing to do what Quran is asking you to do. And that is the reason for different maslaks and the groups. Because to me, offering salah prayers like this or like this or like this doesn't matter. Because the way one wants to connect to God, I should not bother about it. So that way you may consider me a liberal person, and I will be happy doing it anyway, this way or this way, because to me this physical manifestation is not that important as is the spiritual connect. How you are connecting to your sustainer, how you are following Quran, and how you are putting into practice. That's more important.
What are some steps that the youth can take, and more importantly, the youth that are newly getting introduced to the Holy Quran? And what would you recommend as a preliminary step to establishing Muslim unity, and more importantly, unity for the sake of Allah and not for other reasons?
You see, unity for the sake of Allah we can bring only through Quran, because that is the focal point, that should be our focal point. If we follow Quran as it is, then I have experienced it personally, you will cease to have differences with people. You will learn to accommodate with people of different opinion, different viewpoints, different ideologies. You will not find yourself in conflict with them. You see, having different opinions, ideologies, faiths even, doesn't make it necessary that you should be in conflict with them. I believe, and the most important teaching for me, which I have learned from the Quran, is that you should be comfortable with everybody. And you should be nice with everybody, because this is what Quran teaches us. You should be nice, you should be comfortable, and you should be helping. You should be helping to the people who are the worst criticizers of your ideology, your prophet, and everybody. So with this kind of approach, I believe, you see, Quran is something which connects you in a way which you perhaps not fully realize. It is done and you never realize it. Say for example, when you start following Quran, say Quran teaches us that whenever you speak best of the speech. Kulli ibadi yaqulu lati ahsan. Tell my ibadi, this my submitters, that always they speak best of the speech. So in no condition it asks you to shout at people, to misbehave with them. Whatever they are doing, irrespective of what they are doing. So once I adopt this habit, and I am always nice with people in my speech, then you can imagine people would love me or hate me. So that way, unknowingly, a social contact and connect is developed. And when 4 or 5 or 6 people in a small room are doing the same thing, so naturally these people will be automatically connected. Now this is the connection which we develop You may call it the unity of the Ummah, or unity of the Muslims, or unity of the humanity. Because if we become a good human being, there will be an automatic connect. So this is the only way, as I understand and as I practice it, I can say with confidence that this is the only way. This is the only way, because you should focus on the Quran and absorb its teaching. You see, I believe that 99% of the Muslims are following a fraction of the Quran. And what is that fraction? Which asks us to offer 5 times prayers, fast in the month of Ramadan, go for Hajj or Umrah, and donate 2.5% of your collections in the form of zakah. Aqimus salata wa atu zakata kutiba alaykum siyama. These are the verses. What about the rest of the Quran? Who has asked us not to understand and follow it? So that's my point, that if you follow 100% Quran, you will become a good human being and everybody will gel up with you. Not only Muslims, the entire humanity. So that is the scenario which should have happened, and it has happened in the past. We have a history which is testimony to this type of gelling effect of the Quran. And that is the only solution. We will have to revert to the Quran, and that is my simply message to my not only youths but all of us, that please return to Quran, make it a part of your life, understand it and put it to practice. We have shelved it literally. In all our houses, we decently shelve it in a cover and we protect it out of respect. So it should no more be shelved. Take it out, read it like a book, an instruction manual, and put it to practice, and then see the wonders it can create.
And this brings us to the end of our discussion today. Doctor, thank you so much for being with us today. And I hope this motivates people to get acquainted with the book once again.
I hope